Andrew S. King's unified geometric wave theory has reached a fully structured and internally consistent state. The model is no longer in a conceptual or pre-formal phase. Every primary component has been defined, integrated, and mathematically stabilized from the initial pre-spacetime condition to the observable structure of gravity, entropy, cosmology, quantum mechanics, and consciousness. At the core of King's theory is the concept of primordial emergent coherence. This describes the original state of reality not as a point singularity or an unstable quantum vacuum, but as a completely symmetric, non-temporal, non-spatial, maximally entangled coherence field. This initial condition contains zero entropy and no curvature. There is no directionality, no separation of degrees of freedom, and no fluctuation. It is not probabilistic nor stochastic, but an exact structure that holds all future dynamical potential in a single entangled equilibrium. Space and time do not yet exist. This primordial coherence acts as the ontological boundary condition of the system. From this state, collapse begins, not due to instability in the classical sense, but due to recursive entanglement pressure and localized entropy gradients that emerge through informational interference across an internal dimension. This internal dimension is not conventional time, but a deeper spectral coordinate that King formally defines as the temporal flux continuum. This continuum is a metatemporal field that underlies all causality and drives the emergence of structure. Unlike external time parameters, this continuum contains recursive flows that generate directional causality as a result of entropy differentials. Events do not merely proceed, they resolve. Time in this theory is not a straight axis, but a recursive collapse path embedded in an extended causal manifold. Collapse events propagate through this flux continuum in a patterned way. They are not random nor linear. They form resonant domains of coherence breakdown, and these breakdowns produce geometry, matter fields, and energetic differentials. The space that appears to curve under gravity is in fact responding to uneven collapse tension created by the decoherence of entangled regions. In this framework, space-time is not a fixed stage, but a resolution interface that responds to recursive symmetry breaking. King defines this collapse process formally using a field operator that tracks how informational states resolve over time and flux. This operator governs the dynamic field evolution over both ordinary time and the deeper temporal flux axis. From this operator, King constructs the collapse tensor, a second-order geometrical object that quantifies collapse-induced curvature. This tensor is inserted directly into a modified gravitational field equation that includes higher derivative corrections, including quadratic curvature terms, curvature box operators, and topological curvature structures. These corrections are not added arbitrarily. They are required by the entropy feedback dynamics of the collapse process and ensure that the resulting field equation remains ghost-free, dimensionally consistent, and stable under renormalization group flow. King does not rely on classical Hilbert space formulations. He replaces them with Banach space normalization, which avoids divergence in higher-order operator evolution and guarantees the boundedness of physical states in the recursive collapse regime. Gravity is redefined in this theory as a geometric effect resulting from collapse tension, not from classical mass-energy stress tensors. The curvature of space is the response of the manifold to localized decoherence in the informational field structure. The deeper the decoherence, the more sharply the surrounding structure bends to compensate. King introduces a scalar quantity known as the collapse tension scalar. This scalar quantifies the energetic and topological intensity of a collapse event across the flux continuum. The scalar is derived from integrated curvature, entropy flux, and topological mode distributions. It is physically meaningful, dimensionally correct, and measurable in principle through post-collapse modulation effects in gravitational systems. Black hole interiors are redefined under this model. When collapse reaches high intensity at radial horizons, the coordinate system inverts. Space and time change roles. King performs a full ADM decomposition of the modified metric, showing that the internal radial coordinate becomes temporal and the temporal coordinate becomes spatial. In this regime, singularities do not form. Instead, the collapse stabilizes at a critical density, forming a non-singular rebound structure known as a Planck star. These entities store collapse information and potentially emit it through delayed coherence re-expansion. Their internal structure is modeled using modified curvature functions that avoid divergence and admit real solutions for horizon formation.